In this movie, I'll show you how to repeat a complex sequence of transformations, including rotating, scaling, and duplicating, using the dynamic transform effect. Specifically, we'll take this lone triangle right here, and we'll turn it into a nautilus shell. And just about everything you're seeing is the result of the transform effect. The only thing that's really there is that triangle right there in the center. And I can confirm that by pressing Control-Y or Command-Y in the Mac to switch to the outline mode. And there's a modified version of that triangle. So let me show you how it works. Go ahead and switch back to the original triangle here. And the first thing we want to do is create a spiral guide, just so we have a sense of where we're going. So I'll press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac in order to zoom out from the document. And I'll click and hold on the line tool and choose the spiral tool from the flyout menu. And I just happen to know the settings that work best for this illustration. So I'll go ahead and click inside the document window to bring up the spiral dialog box. We want a radius of 910 points, a decay of 86.5%, and a total of 24 segments. And the style should be this first one here that spirals in a counterclockwise direction. Then go ahead and click OK. And that ends up coming in at the wrong angle, so we need to rotate it by double-clicking on the Rotate tool and entering an angle value of 180 degrees, and then click OK. All right, now to move this spiral into the proper location, I'll switch to the black arrow tool, and I'll drag this guy until he snaps into alignment with these two guidelines right there. So just a little bit to the left of the triangle. Now let's convert the spiral to a guide by going up to the View menu, choosing Guide, and then choosing Make Guides, or you can press Control-5 or Command-5 on the Mac. All right, now I want you to zoom way in on that triangle by Control-Spacebar or Command-Spacebar dragging around it, and then press the A key to switch to the wide arrow tool. And you know what? I want to zoom in even farther here so I have a better sense of what's going on. And right about there is an anchor point, so go ahead and find it in any way you can, and then drag it up until it snaps into alignment with the spiral, and then go ahead and drag this one down until it snaps into alignment as well. And I might scoot this over just a little bit. And now we're going to go ahead and redraw the bottom of the triangle. So go ahead and marquee that bottom segment and then press the backspace key on the PC or the delete key on the Mac to get rid of it. Now switch to the pen tool, which of course you can get by pressing the P key, and drag down and to the left from the right-hand anchor point and then up and to the left from the left-hand anchor point. All right, now I'll press the A key to switch back to the wide arrow tool, and I'll go ahead and drag these guys into better alignment like so. And now we need to test how things are looking. So I'll go ahead and zoom out a little bit so that we can see more of the spiral. And I'll press the V key in order to switch to the black arrow tool, and I'll go ahead and click on the triangle to select it. And the next thing you want to do, this may seem strange, but it just gives us more flexibility in the long run. You want to go up to the Object menu and choose the Group command. And I know there's nothing to group the triangle with at this point. You're grouping it with itself. But what you're doing is you're placing it into a container. Then we'll apply the dynamic effect to that container. And that way, if we want to add things to the dynamic effect, we can just add them to the group. So I'll go ahead and choose a command, or press Control-G or Command-G on the Mac. Now then, with the group selected, and you should see the word group on the far left side of the control panel, go up to the Effect menu, choose Distort and Transform, and then choose Transform, or if you loaded D keys, you can just press Control-E or Command-E on the Mac. Now, the distance between these two lines of the triangle, that is, the angle of the top of the triangle, happens to be 30 degrees. So go ahead and dial in 30 degrees for the angle value, and then turn on the Preview checkbox, and you'll see the triangle rotate around its center, which is not what we want. Instead, we want to rotate it around its top. So go ahead and select this top point inside the reference point matrix. Now, if there's one downside to working with the transform effect, it's that you only have this much control over the origin of your transformation. It'd be nice if you could set a specific point like right there at the intersection of those two guidelines, but you can't. And we'll see how we have to work around that in the future. But for now, go ahead and select this point. It's our best bet. It's the top center of the bounding box, incidentally. That's what it means. Now I'll go ahead and click on the horizontal scale value, and I'll press the up arrow key, and that's going to increase the size of my triangle. Can't really tell, however, because the number of copies is set to 0. So I'll go ahead and increase that copies value quite a bit to something like, let's say, 10. will work for now. That'll give us a sense of what we're able to accomplish here. And now I'll click inside the vertical scale value and I'll nudge it up as well by pressing the up arrow key. And you can see how the triangle is rotating and growing at the same time. Now, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and turn on the Scale, Strokes, and Effects checkbox. Transform Objects should be turned on as well. We don't have any patterns. So once you've entered these values, just go ahead and click OK in order to apply the effect. All right, now notice that we've got kind of a gap at the center of this thing that we're creating. And the reason that gap exists is because the transform effect always takes into account the stroke. So rather than rotating around the top anchor point, which would be ideal, of course, it's rotating around the bounding box, as I told you before, that includes the stroke. And so the center must not only be up here, but it must be slightly over to the right as well. Now, we can take care of part of that problem by adjusting the stroke, by tucking it inward. And you do that by clicking on the word stroke up here in the control panel and then changing the align setting to align stroke to inside in order to achieve that effect there. All right, that takes care of a lot of the problems, but not all of them. We still have some further adjustments to make, and I'll show you exactly how those adjustments work in the next movie.